Hello, Veterans Day KV employees, everybody watching. Welcome to the Veteran Lang channel with your friendly VA-accredited attorney, Matthew Lang. Hey, if you're familiar with the channel, typically we're going to talk about the rules, regulations. We're going to educate. We're going to talk about the errors. We're going to talk about VA compensation, disability mainly, and then sprinkle in some other VA benefits. But for today, I want to share a radio interview with you. I recently had the opportunity to join Mr. Bill Brady on 1100 KFNX here in Arizona to talk about Lang's Legal, my background with the Department of Veterans Affairs, and why I remain committed to helping veterans understand and navigate the VA compensation and disability system. Now, we also discussed the broader mission of Lang's Legal, making practical legal help more accessible to veterans, their families, and the communities that we serve. I wanted to share the full interview with you here. I hope it gives you a better understanding of who I am, why I do this work, and what we're trying to accomplish through both Lang's Legal and the Veteran Lang names. So I want to thank you again for your support. I want to thank you to Bill Brady and the 1100 KFNX staff for giving me the opportunity to share this information and help get the word out as we help veterans every day. So now let's get down to it. Here's the interview with Bill Brady on 1100 KFNX.
The following program was pre-recorded.
This is Bill Brady on the Pulse of Arizona, 1100 KFNX. We are with attorney Matthew Lang at his offices in Surprise today. Matthew Lang is the veterans advocate to show you how people respond to both the need and the expertise. I remember the first time we had you on at the studio. We had 3 calls in 5 minutes from people looking to know how they could get in touch with you and to talk about what you do. Let's start with that question. Lang's Legal obviously deals in all sorts of veterans issues, but if we met at a dinner party and I said, Matthew Lang, give us the 40,000-foot view, or as they say today, the elevator speech, what does Lang's Legal do?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. And thanks for coming out to the office here and seeing us here. Yeah, so Lang's Legal is a VA-accredited law firm, or myself as a VA-accredited attorney, helping veterans receive benefits that the VA has denied them, helping them even file those initial claims at the first time, get them the evaluations that ultimately they deserve from their contractual agreement with the government. We'll take those and fight those claims and those appeals all the way to the Board of Veterans Appeals, where we find a lot of victory. We'll fight it with the VA local regional offices. And if we need to, we'll even take it to the Court of Appeals just to make sure that the veterans and their family members are taken care of. So we're looking at benefits like compensation, get that monthly check there for the conditions that the veterans have, which tends to help them get even healthcare benefits for free, and just so many other things, education, home loans, and whatever they possibly need.
Now, how big is the need? I mean, it's obviously big enough to keep you busy, but we've got a lot of veterans out of multiple conflicts around the world over going back to Vietnam, back 50 plus years. How great is the need for the service that you provide to veterans?
Yeah, I would say there's a tremendous need for this service. There's not a whole lot of us accredited attorneys out there right now. There's definitely a good number of us, but there's definitely a lot of claims are being denied by the VA. A lot of veterans who don't even know that they're eligible for benefits. And what we're able to do is fill in and make sure that we can get that all taken care of to them, and even the education to them. As long as the VA continues to push claims and make errors, there's always going to be a need. The same token, as long as there's wars and conflicts, again, there's always going to be a need for somebody to step in and make sure that veteran and their family is taken care of.
Well, and the thing that strikes me in regard to it is you have so many people who have been in the service of their country. It is a big organization by its nature. It's a big organization when it comes to its bureaucracy. And as a result, you also have people who are veterans who it's not like they all started on the same day and all ended their service on the same day. And so the reality of the situation is there are people coming and going all the time, but does the VA in a comprehensive way prepare soldiers for life after their active duty service, especially in terms of the benefits that they're supposed to have?
Well, I'm going to say our government as a whole, I think they really try. They do. The VA's got programs where they do outreach. They go to various events. They provide different briefings even to our military folks. I believe even maybe the Department of Defense has programs like that too. But I think sometimes what happens is that's not always enough, or maybe it's not clear enough, or we're not taking into consideration the idea that a lot of the military service members, as they're trying to leave service, is more focused on trying to leave service. Maybe we can still do better is the ultimate point, or again, individuals like myself be able to fill in those gaps and help get that information out there when the veterans finally settled down a little bit and go, oh yeah, I need to really start understanding how to live the civilian life now in the process.
Well, they're going back into civilian life. They could be going back to spouses and kids and family and trying to re-enter society in a way that isn't necessarily focused on the veterans' benefits. Is it fair to say that if somebody was injured in their active duty period or was getting a lot of VA services, that person might acclimate more easily to the VA and the services it provides because they've already been involved in that, versus somebody who comes out of the military and then 5 or 10 years later needs services, but they have not been consistently engaged with the VA for all those years?
I think there might be arguments all the way around on that one, but I would say from my experience that being able to get those benefits coming out of service will definitely help the acclimation process more so. And I think one big reason is the organization is made up of a lot of veterans as well. So you're really getting that opportunity from one veteran to another to understand each other and work with each other a little bit more when it comes to the medical side, comes to benefits. The benefits also help, again, to give them a place to go for medical so they don't have to hunt around like, oh, who's my doctor? Where do I see? Who do I got to go to? I think it's a little bit more streamlined for them at that point. The other benefits, again, will help them have that housing, whether that be that VA home loan, help them get that education and kind of start settling back into maybe another civilian occupation where they got out of the service at a young age. So yeah, I think the benefits would definitely help them acclimate much sooner and better.
This is Bill Brady on the Pulse of Arizona, 1100 KFNX. We are in the offices of attorney Matthew Lang today. He is Lang's Legal, located physically in Surprise, but Matthew Lang can help you wherever you may be because he's dealing with veterans issues and federal issues that can occur across the country. It's not like a different type of law where you may need to be dealing specifically with an attorney in a different state, but in this case, the VA is a national entity, and so Matthew Lang can help you if you are within the sound of our voice today. To reach out to Matthew Lang, please call 480-219-2101, 480-219-2101. Now, I want to ask a question here, Matthew Lang. How much of your work deals with the VA disability compensation?
That's primary. It's majority of the work we do, probably 95% of it, actually.
Now, when we do the commercial messages, we talk about a VA rating. Tell us what that is and how does that get determined?
So a VA rating, when we're talking about compensation, a VA rating is ultimately the evaluation a veteran gets for a disability or a condition. Now, to get there, we've got to walk through a few doors and we got to meet some requirements. So one, they've got to be eligible based upon their service. Typically, they've got to have some sort of honorable discharge, and there's some exceptions to some of the stuff I'm saying, but it is honorable service. They get to then provide the evidence of what happened in service, what they got currently diagnosed, and then we put evidence together to get the link between everything. So ultimately, those three elements will get them to the point of what we call service connection, so they can get that evaluation, which we tend to refer to as a rating, which is just that monthly amount that's allowed to them for their conditions at the service connected.
So is it a case where if they've been injured during active duty, that gets pulled over? Or could that be established for the first time as they have been out of the service for a while and something comes to light that would be a service-related injury or condition?
Both, actually. So if the member in service is disabled or has an injury in service, yeah, that definitely gets pulled from the record and to the VA as it's documented and then addressed and usually given a compensation and a rating to. But if it's 10 years down the road, maybe 20 years, we do see that there are conditions that don't pop up right away or they're not as noticeable. We see that through our presumptive issues or Agent Orange exposures, for example, diabetes, prostate cancer, just some quick examples. So it could be something that just pops up later on, and all we have to do is connect the dots with the right evidence and make sure that that evaluation can be properly given.
Now, you work for the VA.
I did. Yep.
You did. And you practice in this area now. What is it about this type of law that gives you the satisfaction of being able to work with and help people who are in the military?
Very great question. I don't think it's for everybody. And I think what has helped me is the idea that when I joined the service, I met a lot of great people. A lot of great people helped me in my career along the way, especially when we were in combat situations or in a combat zone. You start learning about each other a little bit more, and you realize how much you rely on each other and how much you're there for each other. And it was really that passion that was being built up throughout my career that said, these are ultimately brothers and sisters to me now. And I want to make sure that they get well is due to them. I seen working even originally in human resources where if you didn't really understand the rules or you struggled with it, that those service members may have had some career issues. And I found that I was just really good at interpreting the rules, the laws, the paperwork, and making sure I can get them what they need even there. So was that translated into the VA? I seen an organization that had a great mission, still does, but I seen the struggles in it and how I was able to make the difference inside the system. And ultimately now I see how I can make a bigger difference outside the system for really, again, just that relationship of what I feel are all my brothers and sisters in arms and give them that opportunity that maybe they wouldn't get if somebody didn't stand up and give it to them.
Are they, you use the term brothers and sisters in arms. The military provides some structure. It provides some togetherness. You're probably living more closely with other human beings than you will even in college. And that provides, I would say, a kind of a safety net and a structure for people. But how big a transition is it for people who go from being in the service to coming back here and suddenly being a civilian? And that itself is a transition, isn't it?
That's a huge transition. Yeah, for sure. I was a reservist for 22 years, so I can't really speak fully to all the active component or maybe how everybody's feeling. And nor do I want to try to put words in their mouth. But even coming back from tour in Iraq, being gone for about a year, a little bit more, you definitely felt a huge change there because you do. You're right. You have a tighter living quarters. You learn more about people. You become closer. You make some closer relationships. And when you come back, the world is looking at you, it feels like differently. The world doesn't operate the same way. You got more responsibilities, perhaps in a sense of paying bills, going to a different job. It's just kind of maybe hard to explain. And I think that's where some of our struggles become is kind of understanding the difference between the two, because you'd be like, well, you pay bills in service. Well, you had to go to a job. But again, it was so much different even in that little bit of time. So yeah, it's a huge struggle. So even in something that short period of time for me, so I can only imagine the active component, individuals who've been in it for so many years, and definitely we're going to have that struggle. But again, brothers and sisters, that's what we're here for, is to help each other out and try to minimize that struggle as much as we can.
Well, it's one of those things. I look at it, they got you in their corner. Mm-hmm. And as a result, they've got an information source and a helping hand. And hopefully people will avail themselves of that because it will be necessary in regard to certain things in dealing with the VA. But it's also a case of where there should be some comfort in knowing that they got Matthew Lang in their corner. Matthew Lang is Lang's Legal, the veterans advocate. You can reach him at 480-219-2101, 480-219-2101. This is our regular monthly program on veterans affairs and issues with Lang's Legal, 480-219-2101. Bill Brady on the Pulse of Arizona, 1100 KFNX. You served your country. Now it's time someone stands up for you. Lang's Legal is a veteran-owned law firm built to navigate the VA disability process. From denied claims to low ratings and appeals, Lang's Legal stands up for the benefits you've earned with guidance you can trust. Call veteran attorney Matthew Lang at 480-219-2101, 480-219-2101, veteranlang.com. We are back. Bill Brady on the Pulse of Arizona, 1100 KFNX. Matthew Lang is with us. He is the Veterans Advocate. His practice is called Lang's Legal. You can reach him at 480-219-2101, 480-219-2101. A question about your service. You served in Iraq. You said you were there for a year. What was it like for you in being in Iraq? What was that experience like? And what was it like as you came back to the States and transitioned back into a different life?
Yeah. So to keep the story short and not get too winded here, I was working originally at a Taco Bell, believe it or not, and got a phone call from my NCO who said, you've got to be at the unit tomorrow morning by 6 a.m. And so I had less than 24 hours to show up in uniform, ready to go. 3 days later, we left our entire life behind. Bags were packed, our gear was ready to go, and we were sent down to Fort Riley, Kansas, to start the next step in the process. Eventually, we got sent over to Iraq. It was oddly interesting for myself because so many people will ask you, weren't you scared? Weren't you afraid? What was that like? And they're so curious. And you don't realize that, I don't think, until when you get there, that all this training that the military has given you really just kicks in. You start locking and loading your weapon. You don't think twice. You're ready to shoot something or somebody. You're ready to defend yourself. And I've never been off a range at that point. But you start kicking in the survival mode. We only had the gear that we could carry and the clothes on our back when we first arrived in this plot of sand that we actually called it Hell's Half Acre. It was extremely hot. It was very sandy desert. It was the beach without water, ultimately. But we did. We learned to work together really quick. We learned to survive. We did things that I don't think people could ever imagine doing. We had to dig holes for our bathroom. We didn't have the luxuries of home anymore. And we just went on with the mission, working hours in a day, nonstop, and being there for each other. Ultimately, the whole thing came down to we only had one thing to really worry about, and that was just to survive. And that's kind of the gist of what it was like there. When we came back, I think you start realizing that you are a different person. You're more alert to things. You don't realize that the whole time you've been on alert. You thought you were sleeping, but maybe you weren't fully sleeping. You notice things in your environment that you didn't notice before. You start seeing how people appear to be looking at you differently, how people are wondering, well, what did the effects of war do to that individual? Who is this person in front of me now? You have time when you come back where you don't have to go to work right away. Back to, in my case, that Taco Bell, you get, I believe at the time it was like 3 months. And I remember going back right away because you're so used to working and so around the clock. But I tell that part of the story because what I didn't realize until it really hit me was I remember being extremely stressed out working at Taco Bell, but I just came from war. Why was I so stressed out? And I remember turning to one employee at the time and telling him that civilian life at that point and working in that Taco Bell was more stressful than war. So you really find it to be much more complicated, I guess, when you come back. You're doing more than just surviving. It feels like you have so many other things you have to now be focused in on. So yeah, it's a huge difference overall.
Yeah, I can imagine. The reason I asked is you're in theater in one part and then you're back here, but it's like your senses haven't caught up with you yet, and that you're looking at people coming into the Taco Bell in the same way you would see people in Fallujah, but your mind hasn't said, wait, the threat is really limited here as compared to there. But I do have to say thank you for your service. I want to touch on one other area today because it's something we're hearing a lot of in civilian life today, but veterans in all likelihood have more reason for issues or the same potential for issues as people in the general population. The question that I would have in this circumstance is, to what extent are veterans affected by mental health issues? How much of your practice deals with mental health issues? And how big a factor is it within the VA?
Yeah, mental health is extremely huge. Like I said, I mean, we're being exposed to stuff. We're doing things that most won't do, and it's really altering how we perceive things, as we just kind of mentioned. You're right. Maybe you're not quite settled down. The mind may not be fully settled at first. The VA does offer a lot of mental health care and treatment, which is great. And our side will handle a lot of the compensation stuff to help them get maybe even that care for free through the compensation and get them an additional monetary amount through those ratings or those evaluations. in order to help them have some income that they may not have because it's harder to do certain jobs now. So, yeah, it's very important for veterans to definitely take care of themselves and watch their mental health. And if they do struggle with it, there's so many resources out there, especially dialing the crisis line, I believe at 988. We even try to do our best to sit down with veterans and talk with them if they have a need to kind of reset or get something off their mind. But yeah, there's so much mental health out there that still needs to be taken care of.
Best place for people to turn for information about everything that the VA does and what benefits they would be eligible for or entitled to as people who've been in the service.
Yeah, my first instinct is usually to tell them go to va.gov because I know there's a ton of information that the VA puts out there, but it's so much that I know that can be overwhelming as well. So I would definitely seek out individuals like myself, accredited agents, even accredited attorneys, other veteran service officers that can help guide them through the process of any benefit, give them some additional information to the various benefits that they're entitled to or deserve.
And the crisis line is 988?
988.
Okay. Folks, make a note of that. We got a lot of veterans here in Arizona, between people who grew up here, lived here, and came back here after their service, to people who are in the service at various different bases in Arizona. But a lot of people move here in their later years, their retirement years, and they may bring a lot of issues with them or things that are discovered, cancers and issues like that, that will surface as they go through life. Matthew Lang, thank you for sharing that story, because I would think for our listeners who are familiar with you from talking about various different aspects of the VA, especially the veterans hearing this, who will be comforted that you're one of them.
Yeah. I do my best to share. Even it's hard for me a lot of times to share some of those stories too and really get in detail. But yeah, for veterans who are willing and able to share, we always enjoy being here and helping them and hearing those stories and letting them, ultimately heal from everything that they got going on.
Matthew Lang, Lang's Legal, the veterans advocate. You can reach Matthew Lang at 480-219-2101, 480-219-2101. And you can find out about a lot of different issues at veteranlang.com, veteranlang.com. Matthew Lang, thanks for your time today, and thanks for your candor in this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again for, having me on the show and even coming out again to the office and on our side of town, and just the opportunity to get the word out there to all of our veterans.
Thank you. Bill Brady on the Pulse of Arizona, 1100 KFNX.